Hey friends, what's up? Welcome back to Babylon Talmud. Today we're studying Daf Lamed Gimel, Daf 33 of Masechet Rosh Hashanah. Friends, we're getting close to the end over here. There's 35 Daf from Masechet Rosh Hashanah. We're already up to 33, so we're really getting awfully close, which is very, very nice. Friends, what does Daf Lamed Gimel talk about? Well, some halachos about shofar. Can you be Mechal Shabbos in order to hear shofar? That's an interesting question. And then we move on to another Mishnah, which talks about actually some of the technicalities of blowing the shofar. What's a tkiya? What's a trua? What's a shvarim? Very, very interesting. Very, very interesting. So let's jump in over here. Says the Mishnah on Daf Lamed Beis, about 5 lines from the bottom. Shofar Rosh Hashanah. So when it comes to blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, in Ma'virin Olav Es Atchum, so you cannot carry it outside of the Tchum Shabbos. Okay? Then mifakrin olav esagal, and you can't, if it's like under a pile of rubble, you can't like dig it out. Lo olin ba'ilon, you can't climb a tree in order to hear shofar. I guess I don't know why you'd have to try and climb a tree to hear it, but v'lo rochvin al gabe behema, and you can't ride an animal in order to hear the shofar, right? Because that's also midrabanan. And you can't float on water in order to hear the shofar. Okay, fine. Also, and you can't cut a shofar. I guess if you need to, from the ram or whatever it is. Whether it's because of something that's also midrabanan, as we're going to see in the Gemara what that is, or whether it's something also midah oraisa, that's a lo saisa, though you can't cut the shofar in any way on Yom Tov. But if you want to sort of like fix the shofar, make the shofar better in some way by putting water or wine, well then gishmak. So you don't prevent the children from blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. You can even help them out, assist them until they learn to blow the shofar. So you can even assist them. Wow. And a fellow who's like misasik when blowing shofar, right? Let's say, he's not even paying attention. He's not even intending to blow the shofar at all, let alone to be yosef. The mitzvah, he's not even intending to blow the shofar. I don't know what he's doing. Somehow maybe there's a shofar that he doesn't even realize, and somehow it makes a sound. I mean, it's something that, somehow the shofar made a sound and it was completely unintentional. So then you can't be yosef with that. And somebody who hears that also, it's not going to work. My timer, fact the Gemara, how come Tkiya shofar is not doche? How come you can't do melachis on Yom Tov in order to hear shofar? So because shofar esehu v'Yom Tov eseh v'losaisi v'en eseh doches losaisi v'eseh, that while we have a concept that an eseh is doche losaisi, that if you have a positive commandment, it can sort of overrule a negative commandment. However, a positive commandment cannot overrule a negative commandment plus a positive commandment. So by Yom Tov, there's a positive commandment and a negative commandment. So, right, something like that, or one of those kind of things that you don't, right? It says don't do malacha on Yom Tov, so that's a lo saise, but also says shabboson, that it's a shabboson, which is an essay, right? To a positive commandment to rest. So therefore, by Yom Tov, there's a positive commandment and a negative commandment, and therefore the positive commandment of blowing shofar does not override the positive plus negative commandment of Yom Tov. And that's why it's not doche. That's why you can't be do malacha on Yom Tov for tkiyas shofar. Lo olin ba'ilam v'lo rochvan agabe behema v'chulei. So now we had said in the Mishnah that you can't climb a tree, you can't ride on an animal in order to hear the shofar. Now we've learned in the past that you don't ride. We learned in Masechta Beis, I think, maybe also Masechta Shabbos, but that you don't ride an animal. Because what if you end up breaking off a branch in order to hit the animal? I think we said, right? Or if you climb a tree, then you might kind of chop a fruit or something. So these are also midrabanan. No, I'm sorry. Breaking a branch or taking something off of a tree is taka also midoraisa. So these are dinim derabanan, right? That the rabbis say, don't climb a tree, don't ride the animal, so that you don't come to do an Isur D'Oraisa. So now, No, we had mentioned things like Tchum Shabbos, which are completely D'Rabbanan, or picking up things from a pile, digging out a pile, which is also completely D'Rabbanan. And we're saying that you're not allowed to do those for Tekiyah Shofar and Yom Tov, so then obviously you won't be allowed to ride an animal or climb a tree that we're actually concerned about that D'Oraisas might get violated. So Zovein Tzarech Lomazo Katani, so answers the Gemara with saying this, and you don't even need to say this, right? Meaning you're not allowed to do the right? You're not allowed to walk past the Tchum Shabbos, which is completely D'Rabbanan, and it goes without saying that you would not be allowed to climb a tree or ride an animal in order to hear the shofar. Okay. Also, and you cannot cut the shofar, whether it's for something that would be considered cutting midrabanan, or whether something that would be considered cutting midoraisa. Affect the Gemara mishum shvus, or Zok the Gemara says the Gemara mishum shvus magla losaise sakina. What would be something that would be also midrabanan, a kind of cutting that would be also midrabanan? That would be with a sickle. Usually you don't use sickles to cut shofars, so therefore if you do, that would be also midrabanan. And a knife is sort of a more normal, more traditional way of, I guess, cutting a shofar, and that would be also midoraisa. And affect the Gemara hashtim shmishvus lo saisim ibaya zov and sarach lomazo katani. So the Gemara asks, it says, 1 second, if you're not even allowed to use a sickle, which is also midrabanan, memele, you're not going to be allowed to use a knife, which is also midoraisa. So it goes without saying. So says the Gemara, that's exactly it. It goes without saying. Nakilu, what it's saying is that you're not allowed to use a sickle, and certainly you therefore will not be allowed to use a knife. Okay. So now the Mishnah had said if you want to put water or wine inside of the shofar, I guess it makes it better in some way, you can. Now, friends, listen to this. You're allowed to put water or wine into the shofar. Don't put urine in there. Masnisin Mani, who's the author who says no putting urine in shofars? It's Taka Abishol, the Tanya is willing to Brisa. Abishol Omer, but also that while you're allowed to put wine or water into the shofar to make it better, but urine is not, even though it does a good job, but it's not very nice, because the shofar is, we want to treat with respect, and I guess the assumption is that peeing into a shofar is I guess not ideal, or some people might think so. I guess anyways, Abishol, that's what Abishol thinks. What do you guys think? We don't prevent the children from blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah. Does that imply that if a woman wants to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, we would say, hey, don't do that? Because if we said a few days ago that shofar is mitzvah eseh shazman grama, in which case women are pturis, and therefore so we're saying that we don't prevent the children from blowing shofar, but women we would prevent. But we learn in the Brisa, we don't prevent we don't prevent children, but we don't prevent women either from blowing shofar. B'yom on Yom Tov. Amar Abai says, Abai lo kasha, it's no problem. Har Rabbi Yehuda, Har Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon. Well, it depends. If it's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda or the opinion of Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Shimon. The Tanya is willing to Brisa Dabro b'nei Yisrael, that it says in the pasuk of doing smicha on a korban, leaning onto a korban before you offer it. Right? It says b'nei Yisrael somchon ve'im b'nos Yisrael somchos tiv Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda's opinion says, look, it says b'nei Yisrael, that the males, they're the ones who lean on the animals, but the women don't lean on the animals. Rabbi Yossi, Rabbi Shimon, Omim, Nashim Somchos Rishus. Rabbi Shimon and Rabbi Yossi say, look, if women want to do smicha on their animal, they can do smicha on the animal. And therefore we apply that also to mitzvah saseh shazman grama, that women can completely do mitzvah saseh shazman grama, and the same thing applies to Tekiyah Shofar, and therefore women can blow shofar as well on Rosh Hashanah. Avam Saskin Boy Ad Shayumadu. So it says that we don't prevent them, and actually we help them. We help them learn to blow shofar. Amar Belazar says, afilu b'Shabbos, and that's even on Shabbos. Taninami Achi, we also learn a price like this. Misaskin boen ad sheyomadu afilu b'Shabbos, that we help the children to learn to blow shofar even if it's Shabbos. We don't prevent the children from blowing shofar on Shabbos, and certainly not on Yom Tif. Hagufa kasha. Now this is inherently contradictory. On the one hand, Amar misasking bo enad sheyilmedu vafilu b'Shabbos. On the one hand, we're saying that we actively help them and assist them to learn to blow shofar even on Shabbos. Which means that we tell them, it's lechatchila. We say, hey, let me help you out over here. Blow shofar. Let me help you, teach you. But then we say we don't prevent them. Which implies that, we don't prevent them, but we also don't encourage them. So one second. The Rosh is saying that we encourage them to blow shofar. The Sefer is saying that we don't prevent them, but we won't encourage them. What is it? So Lokash, it's no problem. It depends if the child has reached the age where we want to train him in doing mitzvahs. So if he's reached the age where we want to train him in doing mitzvahs, so then we encourage him. But if he has not yet reached that age, so then we don't prevent him, but we don't encourage him. The Mishnah had said that a fellow who is just, blowing with absolutely no intention whatsoever. Absolutely no intention whatsoever. I don't know. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but he's not even like doing it to play music. Like somehow he ends up blowing the shofar. So it says that he won't be yotzei with that. Implying that, but if he's blowing shofar at least to play music or something, so it'll be yotzei. If it's completely, I don't know how the thing ends up getting blown, but it gets blown, so we're saying that doesn't work. But if he ends up blowing it because he wants to blow it, even if he doesn't have the mitzvah of shofar in mind, it works. The Ataka supports Rava. The Rava says that a fellow who blows shofar in order to play music is taka yotze. So let's say that this Mishnah supports it, because this Mishnah is saying if it was a complete accident, it doesn't work. Implying if it wasn't a complete accident, he blew the shofar, he wanted to blow a shofar, he just didn't have intention for the mitzvah. So it implies from the Mishnah to be yotze. That's a support for Rava, who says that you taka yotze like that as well. He says that. So the Gemara says, well, maybe not. Maybe it's inconclusive. Maybe the author of our Mishnah would also say it's not just when it's a complete mistake, but even if it's to play music, it would be the equivalent, because he doesn't have the intention for biyotze the mitzvah, and therefore, the author of our Mishnah may not agree that blowing the shofar for like musical reasons would work to be yotzei the mitzvah. We said that a fellow who hears from this person who had no intention to blow shofar is not yotzei. Implying, but what if a fellow, right? What if Reuven is blowing shofar to be yotzei the mitzvah of shofar for himself though? Doesn't have Shimon in mind. So we're implying that we want to say that the Mishnah implies that would be okay. We're saying that a person who hears from somebody who had absolutely no intention to be blowing shofar, that doesn't work. But if the fellow did intend to be blowing shofar and did intend to be yotzei the mitzvah of shofar, but he did not intend to be motzi the other person, it sounds like that would be okay. Only in a situation where it's a complete happenstance, it's not okay. But if Reuven was planning to blow shofar, in that case, the other fellow can be yotzei as well, even if Reuven didn't have him in mind. So Leimat have a truth to do Reb Zera. So let's say that this is a kasha in Reb Zera, the Amar le Reb Zera, the Shamoi that we saw the other day. That Reb Zera said to his attendant, "Ichvu nuskali, have me in mind and blow shofar for me," implying that Reuven would have to have Shimon in mind. So answer the Gemara, Dilma, I did the Tana Reishim Misasek, Tana Sefer Nami Misasek. The Gemara says maybe it's not conclusive. Maybe the Mishnah is saying that no, Reuven would have to have Shimon in mind. The only reason why we mention that that Shimon who hears from Reuven who has no intention at all to blow shofar, that's only because since the first part of we had said right before that a fellow who has no intention whatsoever to blow shofar is not yotzei. So then we also said that also somebody who hears from that person is not yotzei, but it's not limited to that case. You can argue that maybe also in a case where Reuven simply didn't have Shimon in mind, it would be a problem, in which case Reb Zera was right in mentioning to his attendant to davke have him in mind. Okay, fine. Next, says the Mishnah, moving on. Seder Tkiyas shalosh. Okay, so says the Mishnah that we blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah 3 times. For Malchus, for Zichronis, and for Shofaris. And each time, there are 3 blasts. There's a Tkiyah followed by a shvarim, followed by a trua, followed by another tekiah. Okay, so again, Seder Tekiyas, when it comes to blowing the shofar on Rosh Hashanah, shalosh, so we do it 3 times, once in Malchus, once in Zichronis, once in Shofaros. Shal shalosh, and each time is 3. A Tekiyah, then a Trua, then a Tekiyah. Shir Tekiyah, Kishalosh Truos, and the length of one Tekiyah, the Gemara is going to explain what this means exactly, but the length of one Tekiyah is that of 3 Truas. And what's the length of a Trua? Shir Trua, Kishalosh Yibavis. And the length of a trua is, a yibava is just like, kind of like we do our truas, just like broken up. So we're saying that the length of a trua is basically 3 very, very short blasts. So we're saying that the length of one tekiah is 3 truas, and one trua is 3 very quick blasts. Okay? Talk about Rishona, as we've seen a few times already, that if the fellow blew a tekiah before, right, for the first tekiah of Malchias, Umashach Bashniya, and then on the final tekiah of Malchias, he extended it, Kishtayim, for the length of 2 tekiyahs, so that it could theoretically, in terms of length at least, work for the tekiah after Malchias and the tekiah before Zichronis. Ein bi'adu ela achas, nonetheless, it only counts as 1 tekiah, not 2. Because we don't break up a tekiah. If a fellow already davened Musaf, they finished Musaf and they didn't have a shofar available to them, and a shofar became available to them after Musaf. So you do Tekiah, Trua, Tekiah 3 times, right? Once for Malchias, once for Zechronius, and once for Shofarus. And that's what you do in that case. And just like the representative of the congregation has an obligation to blow shofar, also every individual has an obligation to hear the shofar. Reb Shimon Gamliel Omer says, Reb Shimon Gamliel Shliach Tzibur Motzi Eser Av Midei Chovason, that the representative of the congregation, the Shliach Tzibur, can be motzi everybody. Their obligation can help the representative of the Shliach Tzibur. He blows shofar, and everybody is yotzei the mitzvah of shofar. Fact the Gemara, V'atani shir tekiah kitrua. But one second, we said in our Mishnah that the length of a tekiah is the equivalent of 3 truas, but we have a brayso that says the length of 1 tekiah is the equivalent of 1 trua. So is it the length of 3 truas or 1 trua? So Amr Abai says, Abai Tanadidon Kochoshev Tekiah Dechulu Bave Utruas Dechulu Bave Tanabara Kochoshev Chad Bave Vesulo. Says Abai, look, they're saying the same thing. When our Mishnah says that the length of a tekiah is like the length of 3 truas, actually we're saying that the length of all the tekiyahs combined, the length of 3 tekiyahs is the length of 3 truas. And the brayso is saying that the length of 1 tekiah is the length of 1 trua, i.e., it's a 1-to-1 ratio. 1 tekiah is the length of 1 trua. The Mishnah was essentially saying that the length of 3 tekiyahs is the equivalent of the length of 3 truas, and the brayso is saying, right, that's what our Mishnah said, the brayso is saying that the length of 1 trua is the equivalent of the length of 1 tekiyah is the equivalent of the length of 1 trua. It's the same thing. So again, V'atanya shir tekiah kitrua, how could our Mishnah say that the shir of 1 tekiah is like the shir of 3 truas if we have a brayso that says that the shir of 1 tekiah is like the shir of 1 trua? Amar Abai says, Abai tanadidon kochoshev tekiah dechulu bave, which was dechulu bave. Says Abai, no, our Mishnah actually was talking about all the tekiyahs and all the truas, that 3 tekiyahs are equal to 3 truas, and Tana Bara Kochoshev, the brayso is teaching Chad Bava Vesulo, just 1 tekiyah and 1 trua are the equivalent. Okay? Shiur Trua Kigimul Yibavis, we said that the amount of a trua is just 3 very, very instantaneous short blasts. V'atanya, but we learn in a brayso, Shiur Trua, that the length of a trua is Kishlosha Shvarim, is like the length of 3 shvarim, and a shvarim is longer than a yibava. Yibava is literally the shortest possible sound, whereas a shvarim is longer. It's like a whale, kind of like we do in shul, right? The tekiyahs, the truas are super fast blasts, and the shvarim are longer. So Amar Abai says, Abai bo'avade plige. Okay, so clearly there is a machlokas over here, that our Mishnah is saying that they're yibavas, which are very short, and this brayso is saying that they are shvarim, which are longer. Dichsiv, as the pasuk says, Yom Trua Ye'elachem. The pasuk says it will be a day of Trua, u'mitargeminon, and the Aramaic translation is Yom Yibava. It's a day of Yibava. And the question is, what exactly is a Yibava? Yehei Lechon, it should be for you. Chsiv be'imi de Sisra, it says by the mother of Sisra, that that she was waiting, looking out of the window, v'tiyabev Sisra, and she was being miyabev. Marsover ganuche gonach, umarsover yalule yalul. The question is, what does it mean that v'tiyabev im Sisra? What does it mean that she was miyabev? So one opinion is that miyabev means that it was sort of very short, kind of, so one of them says that it was kind of like more like longer wails, and the other one says it was like very short kind of cries. So depends how you understand it. So therefore, the question is, are truas the equivalent of 3 very, very short ones, or is a trua the equivalent of 3 kind of longer wails kind of things? So that's the question there when it comes to a trua. All right, well, friends, that was Daf Lamed Gimel of Masechta Rosh Hashanah. I hope you enjoyed it. What do we learn about? So we basically learned that you're not allowed to be over on any midorabanans or any midoraisas in order to be mekayim the mitzvah of shofar. You can't travel outside the Tchum Shabbos. You can't, cut the shofar in some way, whether with a derabanan, with like a sickle, which is also midorabanan, or with a knife, which is also midoraisa. You can't use any of them. We said that if children want to blow shofar on Rosh Hashanah, no problem. We can even teach them to blow shofar, and we say that if once they've reached the age of chinuch, that they're old enough, that we have to help them, assist them in teaching them how to do mitzvahs. So then we can even actively assist them in blowing shofar. But if they're younger than that, then we don't stop them, but they can nonetheless blow shofar. And then we learned about the order of the tkiyas, right? We said that by Malchios, Zichronos, and Shofaros, we blow the shofar. We do one tkiyah, one trua, followed by another tekiyah. And we said that the length of a tekiyah is the same as a trua. And a trua is 3 yibavas. And the question is, what exactly are these yibavas? Are they very, very short blasts, or are they sort of longer blasts? And that's the question. Friends, that was Daf Lamed Gimel, Masechta Rosh Hashanah. Hope you enjoyed. Cheers.